Hi everyone, this is Joanne, and happy Tuesday. I hope everyone's having a great day so far. And welcome to our first Transformation Tuesday. So, you've probably noticed there are themes for every day, and so be posting some challenges, some inspiration, some tips, some resources around the theme of the day. And Tuesdays are going to be about transformation, about change, about moving through transformation and change. And I'm looking forward to hearing your stories of courage, your stories of how you got through some of the toughest times in your life. So for me, I wanted to tell you today that it would be appropriate to tell you about my dragonfly story. My dragonfly encounter which was a pretty, well, it was definitely an important event in my life. It was transformational. And it was something I needed at the time, and it was my dragonfly encounter. So in the spring of 2006, so almost 18 years now, it's been a minute, I had been separated for about a year, and it was a really, really tough time in my life. Anyone who's ever gone through separation knows what that can look like. And it just happened that in that June, I took a group of my students out to a beautiful spot in Ontario, Mattawa, Ontario. For anyone who lives in Ontario and knows that area, it's super beautiful. And so, anyway, took them to this outdoor center for a few days. And that turned out to be a trip I would not soon forget. So the first morning we were there, we went on a hike. So we hit the trails, and it was this beautiful, picture-perfect day. The skies were super clear and blue, and as we hiked along, we ended up by this gorgeous, lazy river, the Mattawa River, and there was this beautiful, cool breeze, and it just made me feel alive and relaxed, and I had a sense of peace that I hadn't had in a long. So once we got to this river, it felt so peaceful to me, and I really did feel like this sense of serenity that I had not connected with in like a minute. And so I decided to sit and relax by the river. And I was just sitting there bathing in the sun and feeling the cool breeze just on my skin and the sun in my face. And as I was sitting there, I just happened to look on the ground, just by my left leg, just on the ground by my leg. And I saw what looked like a brown beetle. It looked like a bug, kind of looked dried up. But the weird thing about it was it had this worm, what looked to me like a worm at the time, kind of wiggling its way out of it. It was like a worm wiggling itself out of the dead carcass of a beetle. So through a conversation with one of the guides, I came to find out that what was happening right beside me, on the ground right beside me, was that a dragonfly was shedding her skin. So what dragonflies do, they live in the nymph stage for months and sometimes even years. And when they're in that stage, they're at the bottom of a river, some kind of body of water. In this case, obviously, it was the river. This dragonfly had been at the bottom of the river in its nymph stage. It had crawled out, and it was now right beside me, and it was transforming from its final stage, shedding its final skin into becoming the dragonfly. And so that little worm that I was seeing was the tail end of the dragonfly coming out of that skin. So I kept watching. The guide finally left. I kept watching what was going on. And so eventually the entire body, from the tail to the body to the big eyes of this dragonfly, was standing on top of this, kind of like the picture you see, with this brown beetle-like looking carcass. But it had no wings yet. And I was really curious as to how these wings where the wings were, it didn't make sense to me that these wings might actually be inside this carcass. And then if you notice on this image right here, dragonfly and damselfly wings have these veins in them, right? These tiny, tiny, tiny little veins. And so what happens is when they finally shed that last skin and the entire body, from the eyes right to the tail, is out of the carcass, they kind of expel this fluid from their bodies that fills the veins of the wings, and the wings expand. And I actually got to see that. I just saw the wings, like little by little, all four of them completely expanding until they were full and beautiful iridescent wings. And the damselfly that I saw that day looked a lot like this one on the image. It was like turquoise and absolutely beautiful. It was a little bit daintier than that. That's why I think it was a damselfly, which is a cousin of the dragonfly. So as I mentioned, the contrast, or didn't mention, but the contrast between the beauty of that dragonfly, of that damselfly, its color, the iridescent wings that like the sun was shining in those wings, and that dead carcass that she was standing on, literally standing on. The contrast was so incredible, right? And seeing that discarded shell with her standing on top of it really, really hit me deeply on that day. Now, I was going through some really tough times in my life. And when I looked at that carcass that she left behind, it felt a lot like what my life looked like at that point. But when I was looking at her, when I saw that, it really made me feel like this meeting was not just a coincidence. And that this dragonfly, I was so blessed and gifted to have seen that day, was for me a message of hope. So after I left and went back home, I had to do some research and find out more about dragonflies because I was so moved by the experience, really. I mean, the coincidence of it just was amazing to me. And that's where I found out that the dragonflies are symbolize change and courage and self-realization and, changing our perspective and how we see the challenges and the experiences that we go through in life. So for me, after that experience, like during that experience, I was so moved. It was so emotional for me. And like I said, it felt like such a gift that I was exactly at that place at that time to see this transformation. And so it really felt to me like I was being given a pep talk, that I was being supported by the universe at a really, really, really difficult time. And so, it was, to me, I've always believed that the universe does have our back, and that when we need it the most, and if we ask for it, it is going to give us a little boost. It doesn't do life for us. We have to do life for ourselves. But the universe does give us a little boost when we need it and we ask for it. And that day, the universe was gifting me with hope and inspiration. And so that dragonfly kind of just sat there for a while, right? And it was kind of like she was just letting me get a good look at her and a good look at her beauty and really, really taking the moment and what it meant. And to me, it felt like when she flew away, and she just flew away and started her new life. Instead of being in the depths of the river, she was now flying around free, moving towards new adventures. It really felt like she was giving me a challenge. And that was to roll with life's punches and keep an open heart and to trust in the process of my life. So from that moment on, I started applying all the dragonfly wisdom and symbolism that I, had read about and kept researching about and looking into. And I started applying all of that to my life and to the hurdles and to the challenges in my life. And whenever things looked bleak and I got a little bit discouraged, I reminded myself of that serendipitous moment, and then I would find the courage and I would find the hope I needed to just keep going. And so a few years after that encounter, I made the decision to get a dragonfly tattoo, and it's on my shoulder. And it became for me a daily reminder of that experience that I had and how precious it was and how much of a gift it was for me at that time. And it became a daily reminder of what growth looks like and what resilience looks like, and reminds me of my journey that keeps on going and will continue, hopefully for a while, and it will be there as long as I'm willing to ride along. And so if you're listening to this, and if you had the patience to listen through this entire video and watch this entire video, I encourage you to look for those small or maybe bigger signs from the universe that it's there for you and that it has your back, because it does. And know that if you need a little boost and you ask for a little boost, the universe is going to give it to you. And that those moments that are really, really hard in your life, there is really a lot of value to them, even though it doesn't feel that way when we're going through them. There's so much we learn about ourselves, and we become so much stronger. And in that, our lives become so much brighter, so much more multidimensional. There's just more color, more vibrancy, and more dimension to our lives when we are able to move and grow through our challenges. So I hope to hear from some of you on your own transformational journeys and experiences, and I hope we continue to encourage one another. So everyone, have an awesome Transformation Tuesday.